Hey guys, how you doing? Ron here with TechTipsToGo. In today's video, we're going to go over the boot camp. I'm going to do a recap of this, kind of add my little twist on everything. And so this boot camp involved Jason Rockwood from Vechain. He's a general manager in the US, as well as Producers Market. Which is one of the project leads or managers within Producers Market. All right, so let's get into the video. So within the first couple of minutes, I was actually pretty surprised. Not surprised, but I think this is great for Vechain, especially for those of you who've been with Vechain for the last couple of years. This is great news because, as we know, like with these world health issues, like I said in my last video, there's a lot of companies that are just doing layoffs, furloughs, etc. And my take on all of this is, or previous, a couple of months ago is, my take was if Vechain can kind of just get through this or weather the storm, I'll be happy, without laying off too many peoples, etc., etc. But when you hear, the first 10 minutes of this video, when Jason Rockwood speaks, it's actually great news because it actually shows how busy they are, and they continue to sign deals exactly like what the first AMA was when Sunny did his AMA a couple of weeks back. So take a listen to this.
That while we're having this call today about business and technology, I hope everyone out there is staying nice and safe and healthy and taking good care of themselves and their families. I'd also like to just briefly provide a little bit of an update on the U.S. market. The market has been doing very well. Of course, there was a setback. When COVID first struck, it was a little bit of a distraction, I'd say, more than anything. We didn't really know what was going on, but I think that overall, the U.S. economy and the business community in particular have done a really good job of stabilizing, and we've had a very busy last couple of months. I think that the COVID crisis and everything else has brought a lot of focus on the need for transparency in supply chains, and I think that the need for Vechain tool chain and the ability to digitize the supply chain is more important now than ever before, and we're seeing a lot of interest from partners, large and small, both on the client or enterprise side, as well as from our implementation and resale partners. So I'm very optimistic about how far we've come and how far we are going, and it's a very exciting time for Vechain globally as well as specifically here in the U.S.
Guys, keyword US. Jason Rockwood is very excited into what's going to be coming within the United States. And I've heard some people on the Reddit forums or people shouting out to me on Twitter, on my YouTube channel, down below in the descriptions, they're saying no US or westernized company or North American company is going to trust a Chinese company. But, it's just the trolls that come into the channel. And if you guys are watching this, then proof is in the pudding. Here it is. As we get later down the road in this video, you'll get more bullish on things, especially when Jason starts to talk about Producers Market and their expansion and just the overall feel of this complete video and this meeting. You can tell that Vechain is really going somewhere, not just in Asia or in Europe, but the United States is going to slowly, or not, maybe not even slowly, maybe on a rapid pace, they might expand. So let's get into the next part of the video. So if you're not familiar with Producers Market, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this introduction by Alex, so you can take a quick listen.
Yeah, just to give you a little background, my title, Producers Market, is Chief Project Officer, although we're very much still a startup, so a lot of us wear many hats. I work very closely with our product team and our digital marketing team, our executive team, and finance, fundraising, everything in between. And so Producers Market has been around for about 3 years. We're really a digital platform that has the goal of empowering farmers. And what we do is really try to digitize their entire, not only their organization and their products as farmers or producers, agricultural producers, but also tell the story of their product and their eventually their supply chain. We do this through digital storytelling and digital media. And so if you went to producersmarket.com, you'd see there are organization profiles which is essentially a digital profile, an online profile for an organization and their product profiles. And we do the best job possible to tell the story of that producer, what makes them unique, what makes their product unique, and allow them that digital presence, but also allow transparency into their product and how that product was created. And we've changed a little bit recently. So we started off with the goal of creating a digital marketplace with transactions, and that was the goal. And so we moved forward with that development. And a little bit towards the end of last year, we realized that there's another opportunity for more in-depth storytelling around one specific product and their value chain. And so we created something called Storybird, which is a kind of a standalone transparency product for the end consumer to see the value chain of an entire product. That could be accessed through a QR code, most likely through a QR code, either on the product packaging or in a retail location. And so the end consumer can actually see the whole value chain of that product.
So their product offering is very, very similar to like My Story or Walmart's traceability supply chain kind of storytelling solution, which is great because now those companies are mainly in Europe and mainly in Asia, but now we have producers market in the US that's pushing a lot of this. So in this part of the video, Jason and Alex are going to talk about the partnerships that they're currently working with in terms of producers markets customers. So just to get an idea of potential use case for Vechain Thor's toolchain kit and the amount of transactions that's going to be on the blockchain. So this is not guaranteed that all of these projects are, but later on in the video, when I'll kind of describe more that relationship between IBM and Vechain and producers market, to me, things sound different. So we'll get into that later on, but listen to the partnerships and customers that they have.
Talk to us a little bit about some of your partnerships. I mean, what kind of projects are you guys working on globally? Because, our audience is still just kind of getting to know you all. I think they would be very curious to hear. One of the things that impressed me about Producers Market is just how broad both your global footprint as well as the kind of projects that you're working with. It's, pretty expansive. And so I think it would be great to share some of that with the folks at home.
Sure, yeah. And I'll just back up one sec just by saying that, when we started out building this marketplace, the goal was to have as many transactions on there as possible. So agricultural producers and their products selling to wholesale buyers or brands. And that was the goal, but we've now expanded out into more of this market linkage idea. And it's such a big ecosystem out there in the food system world and food production world, excuse me. And we just want to make as many introductions as we need to. So our CEO Keith has been traveling a lot the last couple of years and making amazing partnerships. And one very cool partnership that is worth noting is with the UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Program, in India. So there's a project called ZBNF, Zero Budget Natural Farming. It's it's an awesome concept. It's there's no chemical inputs into the production process. And they've started it, I guess, decades ago, really, and it's now being adopted as more of a scalable program, a scalable system. And so essentially, a farmer will take a hectare to start and follow this methodology of no chemical inputs. And once they have some output to use and to eat, they start it with the local school and their family. And then once they expand beyond the local school and their family, they have enough more outputs, they expand into the community. And ZBNF has this whole, branded store, let's say. And so they basically grow in circular and in cellular format. And so this is the state of entrepreneurship in southern India, millions of people, very populated. And so they have the zero budget natural farming concept that's just been adopted as and now it's going to become the quote unquote India natural farming concept. And so we have a partnership with them to not only help them master plan and expand out the project, but also have access to other markets, outside of, because the concept is once they sell in the local communities, they can go out further, assuming they have the inputs to do it. The school, the family, the local community, the broader community, and then the state of Andhra Pradesh, and then outside of that, and then outside of the country.
So in this part of the video, Jason Rockwood kind of asks, who have they been working with, their customers. And I like this response from Alex because Producers market is just not working with, this farm on a project, that farm on a project. He actually explains that they're kind of working with a large organizations that work with all of the farms across the United States and across of the cities or the countries that they're in. So kind of like an aggregator. And this is going to be huge in terms of transactions, right? And going forward, like I mentioned in the video, you kind of get a feel that that they are going to be going more towards or leaning more towards just using Vechain toolchain as their primary blockchain as a service tool or offering. So let's listen to this.
Nonprofit that is in charge of organizing the farmers and organizing a lot of their outputs is called RYSS, and I will butcher the name by trying to say it, so I won't. But they're an organization on our website as well, and that's really who we've been working with. And so they're like an aggregator for many farmers, like hundreds of thousands of farmers in the end for the whole state. And so we work a lot with aggregators and co-ops or farmer producer organizations, FPOs, that represent a small group or a very large group of farmers. So we don't always make a direct contact with every smallholder farmer. A lot of them.
So I really like that approach, right? Because if they're spending a lot of their resources working on one farm, two farm, three farms, this is a great opportunity for both of them, producers market and Vechain, and especially the community, because then guys, that's going to mean more burn, more transactions on the main net. So like everyone was saying, we're worried about the fireworks, what's going on. Sometimes, it wasn't as high. This is back in like January, February, but now things are already taking off. If you look at my other videos that just put in the keyword like fireworks for Vechain, you'll see me talking about like the fireworks are ramping up because of Walmart, Sam's Club, all the news that is coming out. But imagine when these companies that are starting their projects with Vechain or coming back to life, because maybe they were on hold for some reason. Like imagine the mainnet transactions, mainnet activity that's going to happen with Vechain and all these fireworks that we're going to see. So in the next piece of this video, Alex describes basically the goal, their mission of what they're actually looking to accomplish. And the key word that he does mention here is, they're overall looking to use, one end-to-end app. So this is where I kind of get into, you start listening and it's like, well, who are they using? IBM, Vechain, etc. And to me, later on down this video, it does sound like that they're probably going to be doing maybe a hard switch over to Vechain's toolchain eventually in their next oncoming projects that they're going to be working on.
The vision for us is to have one end-to-end app that's capturing data from the soil or the harvest for whatever that value chain is, all the way to the end consumer. And yes, there'll be different user interfaces and different types of users along the way, but essentially it's all going to be one app. And we're able to, manage that communication from end to end, because some of the farmers or some of the producers would love to have that communication with the end consumer and get the feedback, and not only get the recognition, but also get the feedback of the quality of their product.
So in this next clip, Alex talks about working on this pilot project with IBM and harvesting, the sea scallops directly, tracing it down the supply chain into the restaurant, into the consumer's hand. So using their My Story app. And to me, the way it sounds is like, maybe they used IBM for this first part. And like I said, maybe going forward, hopefully it's going to be all Vechain, right? Just because of the flexibility and also the price when they talk about, I think it's more cost effective later on down in this video. So you'll hear more about that.
And so for this one, we partnered with IBM and their food trust system. We got to learn that a little bit. And they kind of brought in, we have a champion with as one of the stakeholders along the way on this supply chain. And so what we did was have, all the data uploaded to the blockchain from the harvester of the boat to the processor at the harbor, at the dock in the Northeast, and then it shipped all the way down to Southern California to a regional distributor, and then that regional distributor sold it to a restaurant. And that was a scallops journey that we displayed in Storybird, and the end consumer accessed it through a QR code on the menu. So the tap.
All right, guys. So this is a great one. This is probably like one of my favorite pieces of information on the slide. And let me put some words in Jason's mouth. I think he meant to say, why did you boot or why did you can IBM to use us? But he said it in a much nicer way. So let's hear this.
I want to come back for a second. You mentioned that you did the Scallops project with IBM. And now, we obviously are starting to work together. You mentioned that you're a technology agnostic company. I'm curious, what did you learn? What were some of the, I don't want to overly complicate the conversation about IBM, but what is it about Vechain? Let's focus on the positives. What is it about Vechain that had you, learn something from the Scallops project with Food Trust? And, now we're going to be doing some projects together. And I'm curious, like, what was the evolution, or what was it about Vechain that stood out to you and said, you know what, let's give this a shot?
Sure. Well, I mean, we've been talking to before we even worked on that pilot project, and so originally with Vechain, I saw, a younger company that had a very, very global footprint, very, a good, impressive group of partners around the globe, and you guys are very flexible as a younger company and a newer company, and so that flexibility. The barrier to entry really for us as a partner and for our users to use your technology is very low. So that was for several reasons, for onboard from an onboarding perspective and from a cost perspective. So that that's, we need to do what's accessible and scalable and not cost prohibitive for our users. So Vechain fits all of those.
So I wanted to touch base before we continue on with this video. Like I mentioned, in our company, in our supply chain company, what we do is we work with multiple software as a service companies, and we've worked with IBM, we work with PwC, Ernst Young, etc. Right? Even some of the large software developers that were into like bids and RFPs, RFQs. And if you ever worked with large companies like IBM or SAP, they're going right for us to do an implementation on the software side. The total solution might range anywhere from like 250,000 to 350,000, sometimes $500,000, depending on the longevity, like the term of professional services, that like onboarding, etc., being on site. Because we do offer like kind of two solutions. One's like an express, and then one's like full blown out delivery. And this kind of reminds me of like when we compete against large companies like SAP, right? Their solutions could range anywhere from like 4 to 5 million for the same solution that other vendors could offer, like Acellos, High Jump, Manhattan, and etc. So I could kind of see, his pain points where he didn't really want to talk too negative about IBM. Possibly maybe there's not as much flexibility, maybe too much red tape. And obviously I think he did say the cost was one of the factors.
And the amount of the resourcefulness from your side, the availability from you and from Perkins, and the documentation you have, and the ability for us to use the sandbox. We also have flexibility with the API and the SDK, and so it's kind of from like one startup to another. I mean, I know you guys are much more advanced and bigger than we are, but the startup culture is there, and the drive is there. So for us, it's been very smooth and comfortable from our side. And so that was really that was became clear every time we spoke, but it's a big reason why.
Here's another great part in the video, because Jason Rockwood talks about having that early conversation with Producers Market, him talking with the CEO, and basically the CEO has been in contact with, basically him doing his due diligence in terms of looking at all the software vendors, competition, how much, a blockchain as a service solutions company is going to charge them, etc. And I really like this part because, towards the end of this, Jason just mentions that, he worked with the CEO of the company, he did all of his research, and when it came down to it, it all came back down and, using Vechain just based on how are they able to deliver, et cetera, and more.
Yeah, I was, I was very proud of that. I mean, we started talking, Vechain, my team and your team started talking, I think early in 2019, and you guys were continuing to evaluate the services in the market. You looked at a lot of different traceability platforms. There are several out there in the marketplace, and you guys evaluated all of them. I remember having a conversation with your CEO where he was basically like, look, we've looked at the big guys and the little guys, and we've tried some things here and we've tried some things there. And, all roads just keep coming back to Vechain. So let's just do this. And, I'm very proud that, because, I've gotten to know your team and I have a lot of respect for your team.
All right, so you heard that. Doesn't that make you more bullish? Where you've invested your money and put your money into Vechain, right? And that's why it's funny when I hear a lot of the trolls out there talking about that's just fake news, et cetera, et cetera. But we have all these boot camps that are happening, and imagine the references that are going to come forward in terms of all of these partnerships that they have, right? Producers Market. If they ever go to one of their conferences or bring them on board as a referral, this is going to be huge news because, the CEO can talk about how he's tried, several of the players in the market, and it ended up all just coming down to Vechain, right? It all kind of led, private blockchain, public blockchain, etc., right? So this is this makes me more bullish, and like I said, I always say, this makes me bullish, but the reason why is because we keep hearing good news in different vertical markets and different industries, hospitals, food, supply chain, traceability, gas, etc. So let's get into the next part of the video. Now in this part, if you wanted to get more insight on Jason's take on how 2019 and how the next, quarters are going to be coming in for 2020, listen to this.
2019 was still sort of a stealth year for us, but I think 2020 has brought us a lot more visibility and will continue to do so. So my hope is that more companies have the same insights that you had, and I'm glad to hear from you that we pride ourselves on being easy to deploy and cost effective and scalable.
So in this next part of the video, Alex talks about some of the projects that they got going, and this is exciting because if they're going to be deploying Toolchain Kit by Vechain, we're going to get a lot of transactions. So listen to this.
We're learning that every single. So we're choosing great stories to move on from our TAPS pilot from last year, and we have a lot of pilots in the pipe right now. Just some of them are like an Australian essential oils company with all these organic essential oils, and it's doing a blend. So there's like five ingredients from 5 different suppliers going into one product, for example. We have a major Central American retailer, directly sourcing regional produce, and they want to tell that story. So they want to say, yes, we're buying locally and we're buying direct, and here's the story of those produce producers. Sorry to sound redundant. We're doing a project with organic cotton coming from India, for a textile company. We're looking at a big one. We're mentioning government or non-government organizations and co-ops, and we have a big one in Costa Rica with several different associations we're talking to that, really trying to prevent fraud and for the Costa Rican coffee brand and their reputation.
So here's another great question by Jason Rockwood, and he asked, how does Alex and his team from Producers Market, what do they anticipate them rolling out Storybird along with the Vechain Toolchain offering? So I really like this response here. And
do you anticipate a high percentage of those projects having an opportunity for Storybird and for Vechain to play a part?
Oh yeah. So sorry, all the projects I meant are Storybird projects, and yes, Vechain is. So we're phasing in blockchain to most of our Storybird pilots. We're starting, depending on what it is, and the client, the customer's availability to create the Storybird, because there's a lot of information we have to gather. Yes, there's an opportunity to include Vechain's blockchain in all of our Storybirds.
Guys, so I like that. All. Guys, all. Keyword was all. Before we get more into the video and what's coming up, guys, do me a favor. Hit the smash button, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, comment, and don't forget, I got a Telegram group out there. I answer a lot of questions. We got a lot of people, almost 100 people. I do a lot of Q&A AMAs. I do not a live video, but I answer everyone's questions in a separate video called Q&A. So just ask a lot of your questions that you have, and I'll just go through them. So let's get into the next part of the video. So in this next clip, I like this because to get a sense of how their customers or how customers are benefiting from this, he explains how a lot of the farmers or producers know what blockchain is, but basically they want to know how to get on it. So this to me is like more growth because it's a great response. Agriculture, farming, etc., right? They all want to be on this this platform that Vechain and Producers Market is going to be on. So guys, in like the future, and like in my last video, what I mentioned, and based on getting in early on early technology and benefiting and gaining through that by just making a simple small investment or big investment in Vechain, etc. Not financial advice, but you plant your seeds and just watch them grow. So listen to this.
They do, and so it's very interesting to see. It's interesting because a lot of the producers we talk to and then the other stakeholders along the value chain understand what blockchain is, and the biggest concern is, how do I participate? Like, how do I get my information into the blockchain? And Vechain's made it very easy to do that with a mobile app and a web app, and so it's very exciting for us to take these steps into these different value chains and include blockchain there.
So in this next question, there was a question by someone out on one of the Zoom calls, and he asked, pretty much to sum it up, will farmers see the benefit into this? So you can listen to this.
How can the synergies of both your organizations create an awareness to get other agricultural producer companies to explore the blockchain space? Is there any plan to get more exposure for this, considering the market is not closely monitored? I think really what I'm going to reformat the question just a little bit, which is to say, traditionally farmers in particular are kind of technology. I don't want to say that they're technology averse. I mean, there's some really interesting things happening in the farming space with automation and with chemicals. I mean, farmers are in some ways very innovative, but at the same time, they don't use technology that doesn't have an immediate benefit. And so I'm wondering, do you think that the programs that Producers Market is bringing by working directly with these farmers, do you think that they're going to see the benefits of blockchain? And do you think that it will, that word will spread about how blockchain can be used to make the farming business, either more profitable or to help them, reach a wider market, et cetera?
Short answer, I'd say yes.
So here's another great question by Jason. So he asks, how has COVID kind of impacted their business and et cetera? And to summarize, Alex just says, projects that he was looking at or that they were looking at implementing that had like a 3 to 5 year roadmap are now like 3 to 5 months. So this is great, guys, in terms of onboarding more customers and what we're going to be seeing in the future years. But my only question is, based on all of these projects, how is Vechain going to tackle all of these projects that are going to be going live? But I think I might have an answer to that, because PwC and DNVGL are involved, and I think it's just a matter of ramping up and managing, staff, etc., global, right? So, and this is where they leave it to their partners in like North America for like Jason Rockwood, Jerome out in the UK, and then all of the other investors like PwC and DNVGL. So listen to this part.
Yeah, I mean, to say a little bit more about that, how are you seeing, because obviously the COVID situation has had a big impact on supply chain. As I was saying at the start of the call, I think that, the importance of supply chain transparency is increasing, but I wondered if you had any specific comments on that.
It's the same thing we've been doing from the beginning, so we haven't seen too much of a change, except for the fact that there are a lot of like 5 or 3 year plans that some businesses have had, including ourselves, that have now being turned into 5-month plans and 3-month plans, such as like a direct to consumer play. So obviously direct to consumer has become, is growing, and there's more demand for it now.
So that is one part that I did like about that, is especially with food chain traceability, the direct to consumer market is very large. Within B2B, you have more bulk transactions, but when it comes to the consumer, if there's a lot more consumers ordering, boxes, doing the direct to consumer packaging in terms of e-commerce, this is going to be huge. And later on in the video, he talks about, an e-commerce part with animal protein. So this is going to be, what this means, guys, is just more utility, more use, more blockchain transactions, right? So let's listen to this.
Yes, for sure. And the project that we're exploring is an animal protein, direct to consumer animal protein project, we're very intrigued by that, and we can see the potential to use Storybird and Toolchain for that matter to tell that story to consumers.
So not just, you know, with direct to consumer, but, you know, they're integrating with this animal protein in an e-commerce shop. So this is going to be global e-commerce shop. Hopefully, you know, it's going to hit, you know, all of North America and wherever, you know, other countries that they're going to expand into. So that's good news. All right, guys, thanks for watching. That is everything for the video. There are more pieces to the video if you want to take a quick look into it. I'm going to leave the link below, but I just kind of want to summarize a lot of the points to which I felt were important to, I guess, a lot of the community members out there that were looking more at like the dollar aspect in terms of like, not just dollar aspect, but like transactions on the mainnet, etc. So if you want to take a look at or listen to the full video, description is below, links below. But anyways, I just want to say thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Join me on my Telegram group and follow me on Twitter at TechTipsToGo1. Links are going to be up here somewhere. So anyways, I'll see you in the next video, guys, and stay safe.